There's not even enough air. There's not enough anything. Economy, look it up. Scarce resources. And we're sort of brainwashed into this shadow character who's greedy. I need more for me. And then people begin to play for the money. And they forget how to play with a sense of play. And then they decline even further. They become fatigued. They're dangerous because they're tired all the time. And how many accidents because people don't get enough sleep because they're fearful, so they work too hard at something they don't like until they can't even drive their car properly. A friend of mine became a very successful real estate agent in Maui. Driving her big BMW one day, fell asleep at the wheel. Thank God, there were no trees, drove right off into the sugarcane field. Just fell asleep at the wheel. Very successful. Fatigued all the time. No pleasure in life, you know. Too above the line pleasure, too below the line fatigue. It was a wake-up call. She was very lucky. She was very lucky. But it gets worse, you know. As the years go by, we drop into resentment. So you see now the human figure, we closed from the top down, but now we seal it from the bottom up. So we seal the fearfulness with our greed. We seal the danger. Now we come back, and whatever little bit of light is left, we extinguish it. Here we were going down to the low burner with our inner lights. Now we're extinguishing, we're cutting them off. So we cut off our trust, we cut off our passion, we cut off our excitement, we go into a state of isolation, envy. Anybody gets ahead, we're mad at them. You know, anybody gets to the top, we resent that person. You know, anybody who is successful has a victory, we all converge on that. Why did they get to do that? How did they get to have that? And instead of doing what's exciting for us, we begin to spend our time making sure nobody else has a good time. It gets worse. After a while, the heart shuts off completely with self-pity, sadness. We call it romance. We call it romance. But you know what it is? The same tantrums we threw as a little kid to control our mommy. Now somebody comes into our life, and somehow we have permission. We can be a human being with everybody else, but with that person, we're a total shit. You know, with that person, that's our mommy, that's our daddy, that's who we get to have our moods with, that's who we get to control. We call it romance. It's full of expectation and full of domination. And it's just the norm. Since virtually the whole society made the journey down the scale, you're really expected to act that way. And you're supposed to act that way. And that's what's honorable, and that's what's sexy, and that's what's interesting. And then you put it together with high fashion and sexy models and put it on the screen, and we watch it and we begin to idolize it. We say, well, that's how it is. Suffering in human relationship is how it is. Well, that's true when you live in the ego, when you live in the shadow world. But the truth is, it's just an ego tantrum. You know, our whole lives are one big ego tantrum. And it's so pervasive and it's so clenching and clutching that we need something shocking to even escape it for a moment. We need high performance. You see, there are other paths. You know, there are paths of meditation, and they work. But the path that I'm a specialist in is the path of high performance. You know, I love that feeling of shaking off the romance, shake off the seduction, shake off the fatigue, shake off the fear, and do something I never thought I'd be able to do. And as a coach, I love bringing my players also to that level. Well, it goes on down. Obviously, the heart shuts off, then the jaw clamps, we get discouraged. Melancholy comes in, -6. The eyes roll back in the head, you see the whites. Can't make your decisions very well because your mind is cloudy. You know what I mean. Drops again to depression. The whole body's enveloped in a cloud. As we continue to decline, the world around us begins to get darker, sadder, more bleak. We become more pessimistic. It drops down to the place where we feel hysteria, then hatred, them and those guys, and it's that, and it's the boss, and it's the establishment, and it's the... We drop into a delirium, into a vivid hallucination that we all share. And that's the fall from grace. You know, that's the loss of childhood, the loss of innocence. Then along comes this character, Maslow. You know, Maslow says, well, you know, I've been looking around and everybody either didn't make the decline or some people declined and found their way back. People like Thomas Jefferson, a brilliant, bright light. People like Helen Keller deaf, dumb, and blind, but she saw more than anybody and was a complete light in the world. And he began to explore not the mental illness, but the brilliance and the people who fought their way back, people who found their way back to the self, people who could shake off the bounds of the ego and suddenly find themselves writing, thinking, speaking, performing, playing at astonishing levels. Now, it's not easy, and I want to look now at what the journey is like. We established already that you can't get from here to here by doing anything. You can't get from the ego into the self. There's nothing you can do. But when you run out of everything that you can do, and you've given your last breath and your last ounce of courage, and you've used the last bit of anything that's in you, and then you release or you surrender, it comes. Chi. The energy comes, the vitality comes, the self returns. Only you're not using it to do something. You have lost all possibility, and it picks you up, and it moves you. And that's the stuff of the legends. That's what we all love to see. When the hero, defeated, face down in the dirt, not 1 ounce of strength left in his body, and then suddenly he's animated by a force bigger than himself. He comes to a realization within himself. It's not hate, it's not revenge, it's not any of this meanness kind of stuff. It's desire. And the desire is on fire. And the desire turns into a curiosity, and he's animated. He's alive. She's alive. And suddenly she's doing something she didn't know she could do. And coaching is to bring you repeatedly to that transformation. And so we have developed the transformers specifically. 1 transformer for each one of these levels, -10, -9, -8, -7. So as we go into the transformers, we'll be dealing with contemplation, which is what you use when people are in a hallucination. And you can figure, when people come to see you, that's pretty much where they are. You know, they have hopes and dreams that are unrealistic. They're living a life that doesn't fit who they are. They can't even remember who they really are. And so you use contemplation to deal with the hatred and the psychopathy and the delusion. You deal with them with called indirect learning with their environment. And by setting the steps in the environment, they transform through. They take the elevator up to the opposite level, literally from hatred to rapture. And the next tool is this connection, which breaks down the hysteria. When you feel you're not alone, you're not hysterical anymore. And your neurosis fades right out the window. And so each transformer, acknowledgement for the heart, yielding for the solar plexus, play for the sexuality, for the innocence, for the belly. Each transformer is a powerful intervention. Each transformer is a tool with many different blades, many different weapons, many different methods. Each transformer has 10, 12, or more tools that it can converge into. It can all become this one. It can all become that one. All of it can converge into one, or a transformer can be 2 at once. Or you can use 2 or 3 transformers together, which give you the possibility of 20 and 30 individual tools. It's like music. You don't play it one note, key of C, over and over again. You blend it together with E and with a G, and you get a C chord. But you don't stay there. You move immediately to another set of chords. And there are laws that govern which chords you use, when you use them, how you use them, and unbelievably complex musical pieces are created every day. And people are creating songs as they go along. They hum a little tune that they make up. You know, it becomes a language, doesn't it? And the transformers are the language of vibration, but not the audible musical vibration, but the inaudible musical vibration. The music that we are, the joy that we feel, the pain that we feel, the vibration that we live. And the transformers go vibration to vibration, coach to the player, the coach to the team to the team. What's the vibe? On the scale, is your team hovering around in self-pity and caring with occasional leaps up into resentment and isolation? Or is your team operating in levels of safety and pleasure, excitement and belonging and community?